Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show. Welcome to the show. I am so excited about my guest today, Dr. Veronica Sites. She is a crisis response traumatologist.
Yes.
All right, now that's a mouthful. Tell us what that is.
It is. So I am enamored in the study of trauma. So traumatology is the study of trauma and everything that is post-traumatic care. So neuroscience, psychology, grief counseling. Traumatologist is the umbrella. There's a lot of little spaces that categorize what it is that I do. The crisis responses, I come alongside our first responders from as high level as military to as local level as law enforcement agencies, and do many things on the level of one-on-one with individuals but communities.
Yes. And one of the things I'm really impressed is the media continues to contact you anytime they need an expert in trauma. In fact, we've got a clip from yesterday. You were on CBS 11. Robbie Owens interviewed you about the loss of Kobe.
Yes.
Why does the loss of Kobe affect so many people who never knew him?
It's personal. The personal part of it is the frailty of humanity. Mm-hmm. And the personal vulnerability. Just whether you're a child that now suddenly realizes there were young people on that flight, and there are mommies and daddies and brothers and sisters that are not going to get to hug their loved one.
Yes.
Arriving at home, that hits a chord that strikes the core of every human being. So everybody's going to feel it at different levels. Younger, adolescents, a little bit older than your elementary age, have already got exposure to social media. They've engaged. They know the sports figures. They're beginning to dream the dream. Here's an iconic figure that does great things for individuals. He has a family. They see pictures of him with his children, and so they can relate.
Yes.
Hopefully they have that at home. If they don't have it at home, they can dare to dream. Now the dream is shattered.
Mm. I was on your website, and you've got a beautiful, I'm going to call it a sizzle reel, that's kind of a highlight reel of your speaking career and your media career.
Yeah.
We're going to roll some of that while we're talking about it. You really get a chance to talk about a wide range of issues, don't you?
Yes, because trauma bleeds into every part of life.
So when you're asked to speak either to a high school or a mass audience, what's the topic typically?
My topic is winning words, helping to understand the power of language. How we choose to navigate our conversations can really predicate the direction we're going to have in attitude, in mindset, and in an approachability to dare to do mm-hmm. or pull away from because of the noise that we let in. So I talk about mental real estate a lot.
You know, one of the things about somebody who works around trauma, and you're often coming into a school after there's been a horrible tragedy, does that begin to wear on your, I guess they call it giving fatigue or compassion fatigue. Have you ever experienced that yourself?
I have, yes, I have. Somebody that does the kind of work that I do, and any first responder, we care about people, we love people, we tend to, the downside of it, we tend to be hyper vigilant. In other words, if there's a need, we're going to jump in there. We're going to run into the crisis, not away from the crisis. So boundaries are very important, mm-hmm. being able to maintain them. A support system is extremely important. in that I have my peer support and I have my spot checkers that ask me, am I maintaining the boundaries? Because it's very easy to continue to do the work because you know you're making the difference and silence the body talk.
Yes.
But it's the recognition of how does my body speak to me to let me know if you don't slow down, I will slow you down.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing, in my mind and in my, cognitively, that I've got to make the choice for the marathon. This
Yes.
isn't a sprint, because when a crisis happens, you have the epicenter, but the aftershock is the very long-term residual that happens. So you've got survival mode, and then you've got stability, and then you've got, the success of how somebody is navigating through that. To the long stretch is the significance that event had in a person on how they live at that time.
Yes.
So it's not just as a traumatologist, what I've got to maintain is a realization that there will be a sprint, but there is a finish line to that sprint, and I've got to be able to hand it off to the next set of experts, the team of people that need to come in and create the stability.
One of my favorite stories about working with you is right after the police shooting in Dallas, that just tragedy of 5 officers killed in the line of duty. There was a police car right in front of the police headquarters, and it was just covered with flowers and well wishes. And I remember us talking on a Saturday morning, and you saying, I want to do something. I think there are people down there who need me. And you went down there and tell everybody what happened.
I did. Actually, after our conversation, I got permission from one of the sending agencies and organizations that I go with to be sure, everything has to be in protocol, to be present, because there were hundreds of people there. People don't understand the power of being present. We don't always have to have the right words, but nonverbals speak more than the words with well-meaning can sometimes, impact. So there was a lot of engagement. I tend to see the children because many times when there's a tragedy, it's not only the child's first encounter with a tragedy,
right,
but as a parent, how many other times have you had to parent a child through the after effects of a tragedy? So it's just being a present resource in making the observations of, here's what the child's doing, here's what the parent's doing, normal everyday behavior, it would seem, and yet understanding child development, the psychology, the things behind the nonverbals that parents can very easily miss, not recognize for what they could be.
Right.
Because it can easily be dismissed as, well, that's just a 3-year-old and they're throwing a tantrum. Well, maybe it's a little too much for them.
Wow.
Perhaps just a little time, a little more grace, a lot more mercy for the child, because cognitively an adult has a perspective and ability to reason and use logic in a way that children cannot.
Yes.
And so being present, we had a child that was having quite the meltdown, and I just asked one of the parents, I said, would you mind if I spent just a minute with, and I asked who this was, and they identified the relationship, and I was in the moment, because I maintain that wherever I'm at, I'm 100% there. So to me, that child became my 100% focus, and we engaged. I began to give him some breathing exercises, explain to the family what I was doing, why I was doing it, what he may be experiencing. He sat on my lap, and that went viral. And I'll be very honest, that was very awkward, because when I look back on it, I know I was in the moment. I didn't see any of those cameras. I didn't see any of the people. What I saw was a little boy, and it was one of those things where I thought, if people really know how sacred it was and how vulnerable we both were in that moment, there's a sense that often the camera intrudes on places that child probably today can look back on it, that was his worst moment.
Yes.
And we've got to think about those things because we take pictures and
Right. Veronica, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to go ahead and put your website up and the domain name, so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, it's conflictresolutionspeaker.com.
yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll have to have you back soon.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.